Well, there you go then. Here is the F650 so far. I was going to put the air filter back in because the bike, I wanted to just check the way the bike ran with the air filter in. But put the air filter in on one of these bikes, you just wiggle it and woggle it and in it goes, said the workshop manual. Well, you know, I removed the exhaust, I removed the back wheel, I removed the mudguard, and then, and only then, did the airbox go in. What an absolute swine to get the airbox in. But what I've decided to do instead of fitting the airbox, I've run the engine runs fine. So what I'm going to do, instead of putting it all back together and running it up, I've decided the best thing to do is to physically continue with the dismantling. So the plan is, it's going to be dismantled. Basically, dismantling, especially on a small bike like this, it's just a matter of undoing the bolts and making sure that you connect everything the way it should be connected. This will be a lovely bike when it's finished, and I mean a lovely bike. These F650s are really good fun to ride, and they're very light, but they're quite punchy with that lovely Rotax single cylinder engine. And the idea, of course, is to make it extremely nice, like a new bike, effectively, at the end of the day. So, replace all the bits and pieces that you think are going to be needed. Oil, filter, chain on this particular bike, because it's chain drive. Bloody hell, that's unusual for me to have a chain drive bike. Can't remember the last time I had a chain drive bike. And then the bodywork as well. The bodywork, there is a few areas of the bodywork which are a bit raw, so I'll be attending to that, whether it'll be buying another set of bodywork or whether it'll be getting that stuff painted. I'm not very good at painting, but this bike will look cracking. It's filthy dirty, but it ain't had a bad life really, because the beautiful thing is she's only done 28,000 miles. What a lovely bike. 28,000 miles. I can't remember how many owners were in the logbook. I think about 5 or 6 were in the book. It's got a new front tyre already fitted on it. The rear tyre looks pretty good. There's the rear wheel down there, just taking it off to try and get this bloody airbox on. But you know, all the fun of the fair. A beautiful bike when it's finished. Let's see how we go. Front fairing's now removed. Checking the radiator connections. Looking at the engine connections, because obviously the engine's coming out of the frame soon. The rear suspension. Seeing how the swinging arm and rear shocker is attached. Engine on this side, look. They're a lot easier to see. The radiator is coming off. I've got a suspicion that this engine has been overheating. I've got suspicion because it's got a new fan. When I was running it, it was pressurising a little bit. So I've got a suspicion that this might be overheating, which means that when I strip the engine down, I might take the head off, replace the gasket. Here we are then, state of play. Well, nothing's easy in the world of restoration. Here we have the swinging arm. Remove the nut in there, yep, done that. That come off straight away. Tap it out. The other side, withdraw it. After supporting the weight of the engine, because the pivot shaft goes through the back of the engine and through the swinging arm. Swinging arm pivots on the pivot on needle bearings. But hey ho, seized in the pivots. Here we have the chain and the swinging arm. Now it's going to be very difficult to remove. The only way to remove it is going to be give it plenty of WD and then a load of heat on that pivot. That is the problem. You've got to be careful because you've got the frame there and you've got the engine, because the pivot goes through the back of the engine there. But if you heat that swinging arm link up, hopefully with a bit of WD inside it, hopefully you'll be able to get enough movement to get the pin out. Naturally, we'll renew the pin once it's out, but it is really getting that pin out. The got to come right off, right out of the way. What an absolute joy. Not. Hey ho, call it a day for today. Here you can see we did finally get the swinging arm off. Luckily the heat and the WD did the trick, and we did finally manage to get it all off. You can see there it came off. You can see where the rust is from that one side where it's obviously the water's got into the pin. But yeah, all out the way, shock absorber off. There's the shock, Hagen shock, swinging arm as well. That'll clean up. Just got to give it a real good clean up, and then everything's great. So the long, weary job of examining each aspect of the bike starts. Now here we have the first thing I've looked at, the engine lower cradle. Doesn't look in bad condition until you recognise bolts seized in there when I was getting it off. But that's not the end of the world, I could easily get that out. But look at this. Where it goes into the upright, it's split, and it looks as if at some point in its life it's been welded several times before, and when I put some pressure on it, it just collapsed. So basically that's going in the bin. Then there's the frame. Looking at the frame, I've only literally just dismantled it. I haven't fully finished dismantling it, but where the centre stand attaches, there's considerable movement at that end of the centre stand. So I need to look at the stand and the bolts. I need to withdraw this central piece to make sure that's all right, and then basically the frame is then fully stripped. Then what I've got to do is I've got to go around cleaning it, making sure there's no areas that need repainting or touching up. I'll then get a tap and I'll go through all of these bolt holes and just re-tap the threads to make sure that they're in good condition. And then once it's cleaned, painted, washed and generally made to look nice, that can be put to one side as ready. Now, each individual item has to have this kind of going over, and it takes quite a long time to actually clean and get everything ready. Look at the forks. I need to assess, are the stanchions okay? Look at the state of the lower sliders. They're absolutely useless. They need to be totally cleaned up and given a nice coat of paint. The stanchions needs to be totally cleaned, and the forks obviously themselves have to be overhauled. New fork seals, fresh oil, all the usual stuff that you do in a a rebuild. Down there, look, you can see the swinging arm. Didn't need to grind it off, which was nice, but I still need to totally clean it, remove every single thing, check the bearings, check the sliders, check the threads, etc, etc. You know, look at the radiator. The radiator doesn't look that bad, but it's all the paint's come off of it, and you know, there is a new fan on it, so that's good, but I need to give that a real good clean up with a jet wash, and then repaint it so it looks like new. Side stand, just taking that off. That looks okay, that just wants a bit of a clean up and repainting. Look at the electrics, all the electrics there. I put everything together, just kept everything electrical connected for the time being, but individually they need to be taken apart, cleaned, and made sure that everything is in good condition. If anything doesn't work or it's suspect, it needs to be attended to. So what I'm going to be doing as we go over the next few weeks is I'm going to be looking at individual aspects of the bike and showing you how I restore those individual aspects. Look at the engine. Here's the engine as a complete assembly. Quite a lot of work needed to be done on the engine, not internally, but to make it look pretty. Covers have got to come off. These covers have got to be repainted. But look, I cleaned the paint up on this bit here just to see what it was like. It's bloody lovely. So go around the entire case, cleaning everything up, making sure it's immaculate. I'm going to take the head off. This engine wasn't running perfectly. Had a little bit of pressurization when it was running, which may indicate something wrong with the head or even the gasket. So I'm taking the head off in order to give that a good going over. I don't know if you can see because it's pretty dark there, but the engine's covered in grease and muck, as you'd expect, really, pretty much. But I think, you know, when it was running, it ran okay, sounded okay, wasn't misfiring or anything like that, did everything that it should do, but it just gave me the suspicion that maybe, you know, there was a problem with the top end. Cam chain tension has been replaced, which is excellent. Previous owner did that. He re-shimmed the valves, which is excellent. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the whole lot. This one's repainting. You can see, look at the state of that. That one's repainting. Look at this hose. This is a breather hose, an oil return breather. But look at the state of it. So that hose needs replacing. These bolts, they're supposed to be all shiny. So, you know, all these little jobs turn it into a restoration worth doing. Because remember what the engine looks like now, and then see what the engine looks like when it's finished. See, it just gives you a general look at the current position. See? So the restoration begins. Looking at the nuts and the bolts. Some of the nuts and bolts need to be replaced. Some need to be cleaned. Some are actually really nice. Some are stainless, some are chrome, which is brilliant. Previous owners fitted those, which is excellent. But I want to make sure that all the bolts are in excellent condition so that when the bike's back together, it looks like new. Even the toolkit there, look, proper toolkit, genuine BMW toolkit, which I'm going to clean up, and obviously that'll go back under the seat. You know, it's had new head bearings, which is brilliant. Brand new battery, brilliant. It's going to have a new chain and sprockets because, you know, the old one is absolutely knackered. In fact, the chain is already in the bin because the chain was scrap. Look at these plastics, horrible. So they're going to be given the once over. That is supposed to be red, so I'm going to repaint that red. Just, you know, a bevy of things that need to be done. And I'm right at the very beginning.